Good morning. This is Patrick Lee, and we are live with Midweek Motivation Live. Hope everyone is doing well today. Going to be talking about money, another one of the areas in life. A little bit of a different look here. I'm still working on the lighting. We've reorganized Studio One in the downtown tower with a little bit more view of the Amarillo skyline behind me. We're going to be back here in just a few minutes on Midweek Motivation Live, now on all major podcast platforms, to talk to you about motivational speakers and money. There are many people out there in the personal development space, and they fit many different areas of life that we want to talk about. And the theme of the show here is motivating you to success in every area of life, right? We're going to talk about money a little bit today. What do some motivational speakers have to say about money? You may have heard of some of the things that they've said about other things, but let's talk about maybe helping you with your money today, right after this, when we come back. And we're back. I hope everyone is doing well today. I'm going to move just a hair. People trying to blow up my phone today. I'm like, what is that all about? Anyway, a little bit of the Amarillo skyline behind us. We're on the 18th floor of the downtown tower. Hope everyone can see me. People tuning in from all over. My phone's blowing up actually today while people are trying to get a hold of me for some reason. It's because business is booming. That's why. And we'll talk about that a little bit today as well here on Midweek Motivation Live. We are, like I said at the beginning of the show, some people like to wait. I have some friends that will wait a minute or two before they go live. When I go live, we jump in. And what I really do is try to train people that if we're going to go live at 10, that we're going to go live at 10 or 10:01. And hopefully they know to get here and get into the show. I try to keep the show around 30 minutes to value your time and honor your time. But sometimes we do go 5-10 minutes over. And if we're doing an interview, we'll go all the way up maybe to 45 minutes to an hour. It just depends on the show. But we want to try to get in 20 to 30 minutes of good content with you. And I try not to waste a lot of your time at the beginning of the show and just try to get people in. So like I said, I hope you can see me. We have remodeled the office downtown Studio One, and we've got Christmas decorations and a tree up and a lot of other stuff we got going on. Well, hey, here, I'll just grab the camera and show you. We'll move the little camera here. We've got more office here, Christmas decorations, more art, the city of Amarillo, neighborhood maps and flat screens, and we got a lot of stuff going on down here. And this little tree back here behind me was a tiny little potted plant that I got for Marlene, who's on the team. Many of you that know the show know Marlene is my transaction coordinator and trusted friend and confidant. And Terry, my friend, and I, we got her this little plant for achieving a milestone goal in her career a couple of years ago. And this little bitty tiny plant is growing up into this big, good Lord, it's 2.5, almost 3 feet tall now. And it's called a money tree. And we believe in that, right? Money and finances and prosperity here at Midweek Motivation Live. And that's a little bit of that. And Marlene sits behind me. She sat across from me. And now I've got her behind me through this next season with the holiday decorations and the Christmas tree. There's a little glimpse into us. But yeah, I want to talk to you today about money. Hey, Pete, good to see you watching already. Some of the people that I've talked to to you about on the show are personal development speakers like myself, but they're professional ones that they get paid for what they say. I do this for you for free, so you can say I'm not a professional, but I have spent the night at a Holiday Inn Express a couple of times. I think that makes me almost a professional, right? But I've been doing this show for about 4 years now, officially for 3 years at Midweek Motivation Live. We've got a couple of hundred shows recorded and saved. We call that in the can, and nearly 80 of them already uploaded to Buzzsprout that go out to our podcasts channels, and then on our YouTube channel as well. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure and click on the subscribe button for the Midweek Motivation Live channel. Helps me grow the channel. I would like to eventually become monetized sometime in the future on YouTube with that channel. Click on the notifications as well, and then they will actually compensate me a small amount of something if we get a lot of views on that particular channel. I like and love and support some people on YouTube as well. But here on Facebook and LinkedIn, we go live and then we upload to all the major podcast platforms right after that. Usually by the middle of the same day, we go active on all the other podcast platforms. So many of you could name a lot of the speakers that I talk about on here. Ed Mylett, one of those at the very top of my list. Tony Robbins, Evan Carmichael, Brendon Burchard, Jim Rohn, Les Brown. I mean, the list goes on of people that are in the personal development space. Lewis Howes, Mel Robbins. There are just so many. And one of the things that that they talk about a lot is your motivation, your mental state, right? And we've given you so many types of charts and graphs and different analogies to help you learn about money and life and motivation, the difference between motivation and inspiration, and working on your personal sphere. Many of you talk to me about that all the time. Your top 5 is one of my main things we talk about here on the show, right? Is your top 5. Who's in your top 5? Because who you hang out with is who you will eventually become. Like, show me your friends and I'll predict your future, right? Well, one of the things that some of you may or may not know is that as these people are in this personal development space talking to you about that, one of the things that they also talk about in different stages is money. Ed Mylett is incredibly wealthy, owns one of the largest private jets that a person can own in the world. And there are actors and movie stars, that a couple of them that have these, but as business owners, corporations buy these jets. Ed Mylett is a corporation of his own, I believe. And he just upgraded to one of the largest jets that a person can own. And there are many people like him, Tony Robbins, and these other speakers that fly their own jets, right? They are incredibly wealthy. They own multiple homes, mansions, properties in different parts of the country, the East Coast, the West Coast, farms and ranches throughout the middle of the country. And here in Texas, we have a lot of famous people that are in the personal development space that own large properties and ranches here in Texas as well. And one of the people that I talk to y'all about a lot is Jim Rohn. Raise your hand, anyone that's ever listened to Jim Rohn. And Les Brown, Jim Rohn, Bob Goshen, that I've been introduced to through my buddy Cody. If you watched last week's show on Masterminds, previous week's show on Masterminds, that was incredible with Cody Blair from Fire Slice. And I'm reading one of Bob's books now. Incredible book. We're working on doing a mastermind or some kind of an event in the future with Bob Goshen. But these people, a lot of them trained with Zig Ziglar. They have all been contemporaries in that space. And one of the things you don't hear about them talking about as much is money. But the title of a lot of the books that most of them refer to are books like Think and Grow Rich, The Richest Man in Babylon, The Millionaire Next Door. And so many of these books are out there and written. Yes, Cody, like Cody says, Bob Goshen. And these guys and ladies have so much knowledge to share about money as well. It's not just the personal development of your mind, body, and spirit, but getting your mind into the right mental state to where you can focus on or attract money. Now, one of the things I was listening to Jim Rohn recently, and he was being interviewed, not very well, by the way, but the person that he was doing the interview with, um, as a side note, just happened to keep speaking over him when he was trying to talk, and Jim Rohn had to just talk over him back to be able to get. He would ask him a question and then would interrupt him while he's trying to give the answer, and those things are a little irritating to people that are being interviewed. If you've ever interviewed someone or been interviewed, you would know. So those things, I point those things out in some interviews. It's if you want to be good at being interviewed, just be interviewed by a couple of people that are not good at it, and you'll learn how to be gracious and work your way through that. And then you'll also learn how to be a better interviewer and let the person talk that you've asked a question. But he was asked a couple of questions about books that he would recommend. And Jim Rohn's number one book recommendation is the Bible. When you talk to Tony Robbins or Ed Milet, they'll tell you the number one book recommendation is the Bible. And Patrick Lee likes to believe that he's in that same mindset, because I believe that the Bible itself is the best motivational book or self-help book, personal development space book that anyone can read. And most of them point back to so many scriptures in the Bible that talk to you about money. Patrick, why are you getting all up in my business talking about money? I just believe that we have something to help you with here today. So this interviewer did end up asking Jim Rohn about money, and many people have asked. Ed Milet is in sales, and he is in financial services. Financial services. I say that in air quotes because it's actually like a category. But when you say financial services, it could mean a lot of things. People that are into financial services a lot of time are into selling of insurance. They're in insurance, they're in securities, they're in stocks and bonds. They could be in real estate financing. It could be a lot of things, but they're in financial services, and you always have a thing to sell. So this person asked Jim Rohn about that, and in the middle of another long hour and a half long interview about everything else in life, they wanted to narrow down. He asked him about money and finances, and Jim got very serious, and it turned into a great little teaching in the middle of this other speech about money. And I think that it's important to point some of these things out to you. He talked about going to other countries, and Jim Rohn, before he passed away, traveled to 11 or 12 countries teaching on financial success. Not only just mindset and things along those lines, but finances, and he went to Russia and he taught about capitalism. When Ed Milet and Andy Frisella, they have a company called Arate Syndicate, and they go around and teach men how to be better men, better businessmen, better husbands, how to go after everything in life. But when you start talking about money, they will get very serious very fast. And it's time to cut the crap and start talking about how to be serious. And they get to that topic very quickly. When you talk to Tony Robbins about motivation, it's all great and it's moving and it's empowering and it's great. But then you start turning around to talk about finances, you'll watch a laser-like focus come over these people when they start sharing their knowledge, because it's very important that you get this into your brain. Very incredibly important that you get this into your brain. Why do they all go back and tell you that the Bible is one of the best self-help books, motivational books, or best books ever written? And actually, it's a collection of 66 books. So one of the things we like to say in youth and in other circles at my church is readers are leaders. And I say that in business all the time. Readers are leaders, and note takers can be world changers. Take notes on what you read. So if you set out as a young person to get them to read books, one of the first things I would like to get them to read is the Bible, which is a collection of 66 different books, which will open their brain up to so many other things. But one of the longest books in the Bible is Proverbs. And the book of Proverbs, I think over 119 or 120 something chapters in that specific book. It's like reading War and Peace if it were a standalone book. Long book, but it talks so much about wisdom and right and wrong and finances. Then throughout the other books of the Bible, Jesus himself talked about sowing, reaping, investing, seasons, financial blessing, how to attract a financial blessing into your life. And that's one of the things that Jim Rohn narrowed in on in this particular video as well. And in Russia, he got to start teaching on capitalism. How many of you know capitalism is supposedly the monetary system or financial system of America? But until about 10 or 15, 20 years ago, it was not. Communism in many other countries is the way. The government owns everything, makes you work for everything, and then you bring it all back to them and they give you, your mere pittance of what they believe that they should give you. But in America, we believe that the people should own the money and the government should get the small amount. Now, it seems to be that that's not true, but that's a topic for another show. But in America, we believe in free enterprise and capitalism, right? You have the right and the ability, if you apply yourself, to go out and make money. But he teaches this, Jim Rohn teaches this particular philosophy and a formula, if you will, about money. And he calls it the 70-10-10-10 rule. And he says it's something along those lines. But when you get paid 70% of your money, whenever you achieve an increase, 70% of that should be what gets set aside for business and life. But 10%, number one, you should become a tither. And then another 10%, you should be a giver. And then another 10%, you should save. And then you live on what's remaining and work with what's remaining. When I come talk to you about work, I mean work with, pay bills with, apply to your business, to your family, whatever that is. And this works for family and business. If you're in business, and I teach this, I'm going to be traveling again in January, and I'll be doing a teaching, midweek motivation live style teaching. Again, and it will be on one of these topics that we talk about frequently on Midweek Motivation Live. And I teach this, and I had a great pastor friend, David Brown, down at Abundant Church in El Paso, was my pastor here in Amarillo for over 20 years. And he would teach it like this. He would say, tithe, give, save, live. Tithe, give, save, live. Which was incredible. So you tithe 10%, you give 10%, you save 10%, and you live on the remaining 70%. There are people in the Asian lifestyle, many of them, that will actually live on 10% and save 60 or 70%. They may give of their time and their money to their place of worship as well. But I know many Oriental friends, people of different Asian nationalities, that live very, very, very meager lifestyles on a very small amount of their money. And they save all of it as much as possible. And my hat's off to them. It's amazing. But here in the current situation that we're in, I think if you could learn to adopt this lifestyle of tithe, give, save, live, that you could actually have probably a much more balanced mindset about money. Jim Rohn, like I said, says you should tithe 10% and that you should then give 10%. And that giving, and that's one of the things here at Midweek Motivation Live, or me as a person, that we strive to do. I'm a tither and a giver, and 10% is what they recommend. Tithing 10%. You take your increase, whatever comes in. If it's an increase, now we could get off in the weeds really quick when it comes to New Testament versus Old Testament, what a lot of people think about money, about tithing and giving. And I'll have people that watch the show that say that that religious people are just greedy, and they're just after your money. And while that is true in some instances, I can't deny that there are shady preachers out there, just like there are shady car salesmen out there. And I'm not defending any of them, but God says in his word, he is always searching the hearts of men. And that's where it comes down to your relationship with your creator, not mine. yours. And that's between you and your creator. So tithing is a spiritual, it's a biblical principle, and it's the tenth of. Tithe means a tenth, and it is a tenth of your increase. If you have sown a seed and that harvest comes in, but it's created an increase over the previous harvest, there's an increase, and a tenth of that, you should give that to God. It's already God's. And I believe that free enterprise is really God's enterprise. And I call free enterprise faith enterprise, because God owns all of the cattle on 1,000 hills. He owns all of the money, and he allows us to use it to better our lives here on this planet, right? So I'm not against that. I believe in that. I believe that God's system is best. So I'm a tither. And then on top of that, I'm a giver. Patrick, how do you give 10% of your income? Just give it away. Some of that is given in additional offerings to your place of worship. Some of that is given privately to a friend or a person that you know that is in need. A lot of that is given in community involvement and support of non-charities and other charities. We've done a complete show previously in the past about different nonprofits. Typing in this formula real fast. Tithe, give, save, live. We'll have that here on the screen. So about 10%, and sometimes sometimes more than 10% goes to support nonprofits. We get very involved in a lot of nonprofits. Good morning, Christine. Good to see you watching as well from the Oregon coast. It all started in Bandon, Oregon, did it not? Yes, it did. So we give a lot to nonprofits. We get involved in different nonprofits. Sometimes I like to say that Patrick Lee Enterprise is my favorite nonprofit, but it's not. Patrick Lee Enterprise is for profit, trust me. And God blesses me very much. And one of the things that I want to tell you about this is a quick example of this exact principle. We have been going through a series of meetings and revivals at our church for the last nearly 2 months now. We've had numerous speakers in, Pastors Brian and Jesse Gibson. Now, Jesse Gibson is the daughter of Pastor David Brown, my previous pastor of over 20 years. Love that man and his wife, Carrie, as well. And now Jesse and her husband, Brian, are the senior pastors at the church. And they are also dynamic, much sought after speakers. And they were preaching in the one of the revival services and talking about some things that had been happening in people's lives. Hello, Miss Mary. Good to see you on here watching as well. Love you. And in one of these services, someone had made a gift and received a huge return on that gift. And I'm a firm believer in those things. Sow seeds if you want to reap a harvest, right? So can God help me in my money? Yes. Pay your tithes, open the windows of heaven, right? Malachi 3:10 says, bring ye all the tithe into the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, and see if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that you do not have enough room to receive. And I will rebuke the devourer for your sake. And goes on to talk about your fruit not spoiling on the vine, and keeping the devourer away from your finances. Old Testament Bible knowledge, right? So bring the tithe into the storehouse. And people can say that was Christian times and they're trying to grow the church, and that was a church deal, and it was so the man of God could eat. There's so many things that go along with that, but it's scriptural, right? And all of these people who are not claiming to be preachers, they're the biggest personal development speakers in America and around the world, teaching these principles around the world, come back and say it starts in the Bible. It starts in the Bible. If you can learn to help enough other people get what they want in life, God will give you back what you need in your life as well. So they all point back to the Bible, whether they claim to be a preacher or a faith person. It doesn't matter. They're a person of influence in the personal development space, which means when they read the Bible, it becomes this work of faith in their life that causes them to go, wow, okay, this is such simple but revelatory knowledge that works. How would I not, if I'm a person who believes in personal development and I say this is what I am, and I'm a professional speaker and I travel all around the world to help people that are inviting us and begging us to come, why would we not give them the truths that can help set them free and change their life, right? Tithe, give, save, live. So we tithe, we give, then we save, and then we live. And in this service, Pastor Brian was giving this example of a person that was spoken in this service, that men will bring their silver and their gold and lay it at the feet, lay it on the altar, things that they are holding onto. I also say on this show, financially, what you hold on to will be all you ever have, right? But whatever you let go of, whatever you release, goes into your future, and it multiplies and it comes back to you wave upon wave. That's a principle I've taught here on Midweek Motivation Live for years, right? For years. It works. Okay. So I was convicted in my heart to bring something to set on the altar in church. And then immediately during the service, who comes to steal, kill, and destroy? The destroyer, the devourer is, according to Malachi 3:10 and 11, 3:11, the devourer. Who is the devourer, right? It could be moth, rust, decay. That's in scripture as well. Things that come to destroy the things that you have saved. If you don't save properly, that can be devoured by locust, by bugs. Everyone knows that raises grain. It could be bots, it could be cotton, it could be boll weevils, it could be anything. But things that are not stored properly or saved correctly can be destroyed. If they're not protected, they can be eaten up, they can rot. And you need to be protected from that. So that's another concept. But I was convicted. I felt led in my heart that I should give up something that I was holding on to. And in today's day and age, we talk about this a lot. Everyone is prepping, everyone is saving, everyone is storing up for when you know what hits the fan. So I'm a prepper. I store things up. I'm a saver, but I'm also a tither and a giver. And I know where my trust is, and I know that God is going to rebuke the devourer for my sake. And while God does bless me, we go through seasons where we may be very wealthy in investments, but we can be cash poor. I was in another meeting recently where the president of my company was talking about going through a season recently where he's like, hey, I'm not broke, but I'm cash poor at the moment. It's just a term. Financial people know that I'm cash poor. I may not have a lot of liquid assets, but I have assets, and that's a season that my wife and I were going through. And we're not poor, we're blessed, but we're cash poor at the moment. We just need, I sow seeds and give gifts into the success of my clients and my friends and my family, those around about me. That's how my business works. God is not just my partner, he's my senior partner. He's not just my co-pilot, he's the pilot. And that's the secret to my success and my finances is tithe, give, save, live. Jim Rohn says it's 70, 10, 10, 10. It's has, shuffle the cards however you want, cut the deck however you want. But at the end of the day, you have got to get these examples into your knower, into your thinker, so they get into your heart, which becomes who you are as a person. I was immediately doubtful in my mind in this particular service, and I had set this gift aside in a back room, and I'm like, I just don't know. Maybe this is just me, and that is the enemy of your soul, who is the great deceiver, who immediately comes to rob you of anything that God is telling you or trying to do for you. And my pastor, Brian Gibson, actually called that spirit out. He was talking about something else. He wasn't even talking about this gift, or we were not in this offering or giving portion of the service. And he was walking a different direction. I'm in the back of the sanctuary of my church, and he just sensed it in his spirit, and he called out this spirit and just said, this foul spirit of doubt, this robber is telling, saying something like this along these same lines to somebody. And that was at that moment that I knew I was listening to God, and I needed to bring this, and I did. And my pastor spoke prosperity over me for that, and the blessings of God over me for that. And I just need to give God the glory within 48 hours. And I have financial on paper proof. Within 48 hours, I have clients that we've had properties on the market 3 or 4 and 5 months that needed to sell, that we did not. We've had a lot of people wanting to pull the trigger on. We've had a lot of lowball offers on. And we're just in a season where interest rates were high, inflation is high, people are a little leery about spending their money. I continue to teach you that, and everyone else, about the real estate market. It's always a good time to buy a house. And it truly is. No matter what the interest rate is, it's a good time to buy, because you're going to gain more in equity over the next few years than that interest rate is going to cost you. And as interest rates are cyclical, they go up and they go down. Within a couple of years, they will go down again, and you can refinance and save tons of money. But you will also then gain the equity plus more by the savings you get when you refinance the house. Always a good time to buy a house. But we have land and properties and things that we're not selling that needed to sell. We needed solid offers on. And trust me when I tell you, within 48 hours of giving that gift, letting go of that thing that I was holding on to, that God was asking me for, I felt in my heart. We received offers and went under contract on multiple properties, 3 properties within 2 days, the return on which will be more than 10 times the amount of what I gave. And we had a meeting that following Tuesday night. I just went up to share that with Brian, and it's just an amazing event. And then more properties under contract the next day. And we've had 3 more properties under contract since last Tuesday as well. So God continues to open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that you don't have enough room to receive when you learn to obey God with your money. Jim Rohn says it. Tony Robbins says it. Ed Mylett says it. Brendan Burchard says it. Most of the biggest names in the personal development space will tell you that this is a good way to live. Robert Kiyosaki will tell you to go out and get involved in bad debt, credit debt, which is how most financially successful people live. Many of them live based on the amount of credit debt their personality and their mindset will allow them to carry. So you'll have people in huge financial circles that most of their money is tied up in investments and real estate, of course, multiple millions of dollars, many of them billionaires. And they are billionaires. They can drive or fly in their own private jets. They can live anywhere they want. They can travel from New York to Paris for dinner, and then come back and then fly to Tokyo for breakfast. They live that lifestyle because of their investments on the amount of debt they're willing to carry. You have people on the other side of the spectrum like Dave Ramsey that tell you that you need to save yourself, that credit is bad. Cody says, great words. Sounds like you will need some closing gifts. I've been telling you. Yes, sir. We're going to need some closing gifts from Cody's restaurant. It's just is what it is. You know what I mean? Do motivational speakers, can they help you with your finances? Absolutely. Can a preacher help you with your finances? Absolutely. If you find a good one that teaches you out of the Bible and just tells you what the Bible says and lets you talk to God about it and determine in your heart what's right. Now, on the other side of that, you need to realize that sometimes we have what's called stinking thinking, and we have maybe a spirit of poverty that's come over us, or we were raised in a family that never had money. Hey, I was one of those. Maybe you've been raised with people that had a lot of money but didn't know how to control that money. And every bit of money that comes into your hand, you automatically feel like you have to spend it. That's something else that you need help with. You may need counseling on that. You certainly need to talk to your pastor or a leader, maybe in your church, or your financial advisor about that. Most of you that have kids will know that usually you'll have one or two kids that are very good at saving, and you'll have one or two kids that are very good at spending. I have had both. Both of my daughters are learning in the last 2 years. They are learning very, very hard, but solid, good lessons about finances as they get older. And we continue to lead and guide them because I believe that financial struggles in my particular bloodline broke with me. People can talk about generational things, traditions in your family. I believe that you can stop that. Les Brown says in a lot of his speeches, I'm the one, that breakout person that can do something different and change the trajectory of your family, of your bloodline. That's me. I choose that. You can choose that in your family and in your bloodline as well. I'm going to be that breakout person. I'm the one that will say, I will not bow my knee to poverty. I will not bow my knee to this government that wants to take all my money. I choose to walk in blessing. I choose to give. I'm going to tithe that 10% to my church that the work of the Lord can go forth in the world. I'm going to give to my family, to my friends, to my nonprofits that are out there doing the work that I can't do personally, but I can give money into that. And that money can go out to help the people that can make a difference with it and help change the life of those less fortunate. We give to places that work both locally in sex trafficking and prostitution and white slavery. And then we also give to organizations that do that internationally. We give to organizations that feed the hungry and hand out warm clothes in the winter and blankets to help people, right? There are people that you can help that do multiple things to help ladies that have been down on their luck get better clothes and computers. We've given to organizations that help children of diseases, things that have come on them, and people that have been born, that have children that were born with terrible diseases. We give to organizations and get involved and go to different events for people that have lost a child in a tragic accident. And it's to bring awareness so that someone else's kid doesn't go through the same thing. When we say give, tithe, give, that's giving. Give to your neighbor that doesn't have as much as you. Put some money anonymously into their mailbox. It looks like they're going through a hard time. Someone from your friend's kid, go put some money in their mailbox or hand them some money and stick it in their pocket or their purse at church or work or the mall when you see them, and just say, God bless you. I just want to help you a little bit. And you're not doing it because it makes you feel better. You're doing it because it's what you need to do to get blessed in your life. And then save, right? The ant, the great saver for the winter, the old analogy of the ant and the grasshopper. And it seems like the grasshoppers eat everything, they consume everything that they come across, and ants save everything that they come across. So save money for a rainy day, save up to pay off your mortgage, save money for when bad things happen in your life, but also save so you have other opportunities to give more. Another person that we've listened to in the past is Jesse Duplantis, and he talks about 4 different kinds of giving, just giving alone. You've got tithes, then you have you sow seeds, and then there's also alms to the poor, and the seeds that you sow to get a harvest, alms to the poor, and then just general giving for people to be able to use to bless their lives. Mary says, that's good. Amen. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. I may get a little adamant with the way I speak sometimes with some of you, but it's just because I want you to get it. God doesn't bless me just because I'm a tither, but partly because I'm a tither, and his word says that he will, and he's bound by his word, right? He doesn't bless me just because I'm a giver, but partly because I'm a giver. Am I able to pay my bills just because I save? No, but partly because I save. But you know that other 70% that's left over, that's the live part. And you can pay your bills, you can live, you can go out to dinner, you can help other people, you can go on vacations, you can if you have the 70%, that's the percent that's high enough for you to buy your own jet, buy your own jet, buy your own island, buy a bigger house, buy a nicer car. You know what I mean? Put some new tires on the truck that you own, the car that you currently own, fix it up. Maybe you can make money on that. But as you learn to do these things, there are many other lessons on financing that you need to learn. And many of the parables in the Bible will cover that: the parable of the sower, the parable of the talents. And the Lord, the master God, gives things to a certain amount of people. And then he goes on a trip and comes back, and he would give one man like 10 talents, or 10 pieces of gold or silver, whatever it may be. And that person has doubled it by the time they give back, and they give that back to them entrusted with increase. But then 2 or 3 different levels financially they would give things to, and they would increase it according to the level of that gift. But the one person that would always get the one, that seems like the story is the same, the person gets the one coin, the one piece of gold, the one talent. They go and bury it in the ground, and they do nothing with it. And when they come back, they return it like it's a good thing. Hey, I saved this for you. It's got a little dirt on it, but here's your money back. And each time that person is called an evil or slothful servant, and the one coin, the talent, whatever it is in each of these parables in the Bible that they were given, is taken from them and given to the person that doubled it with the largest amount. And the principle behind that is, if you don't learn the principles behind increase, how are you ever going to get ahead in life? If a man doesn't work, neither should he eat. But work doesn't always mean by the sweat of your brow. It means the knowledge of how to increase. If you can buy a bicycle for $10 and fix up that bicycle for $10 more, but sell that bicycle for $50, you made your money back and you increased, right? And then you spent 20, you made 30, 3 goes to the church, 3 goes to a giving to someone less fortunate, $3 you save, and then the remaining money you use to go buy another bike or live or eat. If you buy something for $100 that you can sell for $200 and you didn't invest anything, you made $100, right? It's not hard. It's really not hard. But until you get that knowledge and that mindset and the internal fortitude to make the step forward to say, I'm going to live this way, you're going to find that you're going to be the person with the opinion of everything that I get, for some reason, it just falls through my fingers. It goes away. I get blessed with some money, or I receive some money and I say it's a blessing, but by tomorrow it's all gone. If that's you, I've got to tell you, there is something going on generally in here or in here. And you have got to get this concept straight. I need to tithe. I need to give. When I tithe, I open the windows of heaven and I untie God's hands and say, hey, I'm going to be faithful with the little bit you've given me. Now you can make me ruler over much. If God can trust you with the little things, he knows you've got the concept. And if he can't trust you with the little things, how are you going to expect anyone to bless you with more? If your boss gives you a small task to do at your place of employment and you have an excuse for why you can't do that, how are you going to expect that boss to come back and bless you with more money, a raise, more responsibility, a title, a promotion, if they can't trust you in the little things? So when you tithe, you're automatically saying, I'm trustworthy. And then when you give, you open up that spirit of generosity, and you can then learn to receive. Then the save part, if you can learn to be trusted to save, you are going to have more in the future. And when it's needed, it's going to be there. And then once you have tithed, given, and saved, the amount of living that you're going to be able to do on what you may seem to be a reduced amount is going to be so much more blessed than the person that's out there living on 100%, but not able to sleep at night, living on 100%, but having battling sickness and disease, living on 100%, but not having friends and relatives that love them. Does it make sense? Is this making sense to y'all? I sure hope so. Because can a motivational speaker or a personal development person help you with your finances? Heck yeah, they can. At any opportunity that you can, I would recommend that you start buying books, downloading books, and reading a lot of the books that most of these people tell you to read. And I recommend them all of the time on the show. But number one, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. As a mind thinketh in his mind, as a man thinketh in his mind, so is he. The Millionaire Next Door, great book. Wow, there are so many out there. The Power of One More by Ed Milet, amazing, amazing book. So if you just type in finances on Audible, or just go to Google and type in like Napoleon Hill, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? There are so many resources out there that you could get your hands on. Go to some bookstores and start going to the old development, personal development, and self-help books and books on finances and Barnes and Noble, and you'd be blown away at how much they can change your life. But it all starts with the Bible. The financial part, number one, starts in the Old Testament, and then Jesus carries through with nearly every one of those in the New Testament too. Cody says Tim Tebow's books are great, absolutely great inspirational reads. That's a blessed man right there, Tim Tebow. The things that he is doing with his life after sports, 100 times better than anything that ever happened to him while he was involved in sports. Christine, thank you as well. Pray about them and see if they can't help change your life as well. Thank you, everyone, for watching the show today. I appreciate it. This has been Patrick Lee with Midweek Motivation Live. Until next time, courage begins at the end of your comfort zone, right? Let's go out there and get uncomfortable today. Read a new book, make a new friend, start a new relationship. Bye-bye.